Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss The Final Destination, starring Bobby Campo, Chantal Van Santen, forgive me if I said that wrong, Krista Allen, Nick Zano, and Mykelti Williamson, and directed by David Ellis. Now, before I get into this movie, I have seen this movie before in theaters, and maybe once on home viewing, I don't remember, but I remember going to the theaters for 3D reasons, and the 3D was pretty neat for horror. I'll give it that. So let's just see how this movie will go. Let's get into it. The New Line logo goes at you like it's in 3D because this came out right after Avatar did and was successful in 3D. And we start off with a car race, and we meet Nick, Hunt, Lori, and Janet at the racetrack as they watch for the crashes, and we meet a mechanic and his wife as well as an African American security guard, and a racist motherfucker as well as a MILF with her husband, and death starts with spilling oil on the ground, a fence breaking, and building collapse and the building collapsing, and the people working on the car forgetting to close the gas hole, and a car flips over and people start dying, and the 3D shots look absolutely terrible, and the 3D and the deaths in this movie is way too goddamn obvious, as this movie is about death as it comes back to Nick's eye as he panics and tells his friends to get out of there, and they do run out of there with the racist motherfucker and the MILF and her family and the mechanic and his wife as the racist, and the mechanic's wife dies, and the racist blames the African American security guard for his wife. I think his name was Eugene, if memory serves me right. I forget. For his wife's death. As we move on to the opening credits with the loud song, and Nick and Lori go to the restaurant along with Hunt and Janet and decide to go to the memorial as Hunt and Lori are too scared to go there. And these opening scenes are terribly shot, as the 3D shots are horrendous in this movie. They meet the security guard named George. That's his name. I couldn't remember for the life of me. And the racist comes up to George and threatens him as we move on to the next scene with the racist in his truck drinking quite a bit and tries to kill George by putting a cross on fire like he's in the KKK, all that kind of bullshit. As he's burning by his own truck, while Why Can't We Be Friends is playing, and I thought, really with that? While Nick is having dreams about death as it feels real to Nick, as he's led to believe it's a vision. And what the fuck is it with the visions, as it's driving me crazy in this series, is about the visions. And this time, I'm thinking, give me a break. The MILF's kids throws rocks at a sign, and while the lawn man gets pissed off at them, and the MILF goes to her hair appointment while the building is falling apart, like the chair, the fan, and the kids come in and the lawn guy mowing the lawn while rocks go into the MILF's eye as she comes out of the hair salon, and that death was on the kids as they were responsible for throwing the rocks in the first place, as this script is stupid as shit. Nick and Lori get Hunt and Janet to their place to tell them the situation after the MILF died, and the dialogue is badly acted by these actors, as I can't remember if I ever saw them again in another fucking movie ever again, because they're all terrible here. Nick and Lori go to the racetrack so Nick can remember who died next, but he can't, as George catches them and shows the footage of the crash, and they go to the mechanic to warn him he's next on the list, and they get there with a little help from George, and he leaves with his spinning cup next to a machine, and we see his death by it falling down on its own and kills the mechanic by the fence. And how does the fence kill someone is beyond me. It's preposterous. Then Nick realizes either Hunt or Janet is next on the death list, as Hunt gets laid and as he's escorted by a kid with a squirt gun and pops his laid back chair and throws out the gun. And how could he curse at a kid with witnesses all around? Which doesn't make any sense. Then after he loses his lucky coin and gets stuck sucked by the pool dead by the water pressure, which is so goddamn stupid, by the way, folks. Janet gives a homeless man some change and goes to the car wash as it dies while Janet is inside the car wash, and she's stuck in her car and tries to drive away while in the car wash, and the roof on her Jeep opens and she gets wet and almost killed by the car wash. But luckily she escapes. But I just didn't care at this point. As this movie is 80 minutes long, and probably for the best, because I'm not really liking this movie nor the characters. George welcomes death as he wants to make a peace with it. His family did die before the movie ever started, and do I care at this point? Hell no. Nick and Laurie goes to George's place as they're led to believe they broke the death list as he tries to hang himself but can't do it, and they drink to being alive, which is kind of a strange choice. Nick and Laurie decide to do some traveling, and for their second chance as Laurie and Janet go to a 3D movie, as Nick realizes death isn't given up as the cowboy man from earlier in the film survives, but he'll get the death from the room above him at the hospital. And he dies, and how the fuck do the doctors not pay attention to a room overflowing with water, which did annoy the crap out of me this entire movie. George suddenly dies from an ambulance truck going too fast, too furious, while Laurie and Janet go to the movie theaters to see the 3D movie, as 6 of the theaters are, I don't know, and Laurie gets her shoelace stuck on the escalator but makes it out alive while Nick visions both Laurie and Janet's death, which when his face turns, it looked really bad. Nick goes inside the mall and Laurie starts to have visions of the place blowing up, and as Nick arrives, and how can you film inside the movie theater with the screen, which doesn't make any sense as the screen blows up and kills Janet and everyone in the audience in the movie theater, and then I get pissed off as I want to be done with this movie at this point. But I think I've got 10 minutes of movie left. We see Nick's eyewitnessing what's going to happen, and I want out of this movie at this point as I'm not caring for their characters and their deaths and are stupid as hell in this one. Nick gets his arm stuck on the wall by a nail gun and almost gets killed by the gas on the flame until he sets off the fire alarm and saves everyone's life. Then we move on to 2 weeks later. Nick is going to a coffee shop shot by death by caffeine with Laurie and Janet and getting killed by a truck, and the climax made me want to jump out of the movie. I'm just not gonna lie. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 2.0 out of 10. The deaths are so stupid as it makes the movie absolutely fucking stupid. The 3D effects in this thing were just awful looking, then I wanted to jump out of this movie within the 1 hour mark hit at this point. The characters were badly portrayed by these actors, and I've never seen them in another movie after this, and for the best, as this script was very badly written. So I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for the Final Destination, and I will be back next time for Final Destination 5, the final one before this series is done, and until then, look out for death.